In the quiet hills of western Pennsylvania, some churches hold old items that no one can fully explain. Across many places of worship, from Philadelphia to distant borders, strange pieces rest in decorated containers. Inside them are dry skin, pieces and small bones, their past hidden by careful lies, and the slow work of time got between the years. 1745 and 1792, more than 73 people went missing. Among them were kind women, faithful men, and most sadly, abandoned children. These individuals were later called saints by the local leaders. Few are aware of what one old book inside the Philadelphia Historical Society really says. That record holds words from 3 people who saw something beyond belief that they found out about the Whitmore family's strange workshop. Inside that place, human remains were turned into sacred church items. For many years, the truth stayed locked, kept hidden by those with much to lose. But after deep searching and endless study, this terrible secret has come to light. The truth about the Whitmore family's acts can no longer stay buried. Before going further into this story, please consider pressing the subscribe button. If you enjoy true accounts that others fear to reveal, you are in the right place. Share which area you come from in the comments. Perhaps your nearby chapel holds quiet shadows too dark to imagine. Now, let us walk into this dark moment from the past. Long ago, Pennsylvania was seen as a home for different kinds of worship. Quakers lived mostly around Philadelphia. Their ways were simple. They had quiet meetings and believed in light from within. On the other side of the colony, several Protestant groups built their lives. Lutherans, Presbyterians, and others set up small wooden places of prayer as they moved into land once held by native tribes. The Whitmore family arrived from England in the year 1742. They settled in Chester County, not far from Philadelphia. Rolling fields surrounded by deep woods became their new home. Nathaniel Whitmore, the head of the household, claimed to be skilled in making religious objects. He created fine cups for communion, decorated plates, and holy book covers. Rich. Churches praised his work. The building where he worked stood tall with 2 levels. Large windows allowed sunlight to shine across the tables where wood, metal, and cloth were shaped into sacred tools. Leaders from various congregations came to visit him. Orders for his crafted goods kept growing. His wife, Elizabeth, was calm, slim, and always carried an air of control. Her gentle hands and unchanging face made neighbors speak of her with respect, though none felt close to her. They had 4 children. Their oldest, Thomas, helped in the workshop. Mary and Sarah, the daughters, handled daily house tasks. The youngest, William, often wandered in the forest, picking up creatures and plants. He stored them in glass jars inside his room, studying them carefully. His interest was seen as a harmless pursuit of science. Chester County saw cold winters, failed crops, and danger from wild lands, but it also had a growing faith. The Great Awakening had touched many hearts. Churches needed ways to show importance, not only in their beliefs, but in their appearance. Nathaniel's talents fit perfectly with this need. By 1745, his workshop had expanded. 2 young workers had joined him. One was Jacob Miller, a boy with no parents. The other was Peter Collins, quiet and shy, from a poor background. The Whitmore family gained a strong name seen as hardworking and deeply spiritual. Their image allowed them to hide something very dark. The cold wind of late autumn in 1745 brought a storm. A woman named Mary Collins, known for healing and kindness, vanished. She had walked through the woods after helping a sick family. People were sad for a short time, but many assumed wild animals or natives had taken her. Such things happened during that period, but her fate was far worse. According to a hidden letter written by Thomas Whitmore, found years later in a wall in a jail, his father had been watching Mary for a long time. Nathaniel believed she had the perfect spirit. He said a voice from above had given him a holy task to create sacred items not from symbols, but from real people. On the night she vanished, Mary walked past the Whitmore land. Lantern light shone from the windows. Nathaniel stepped from the woods, his voice filled with false worry. He claimed his youngest son had gone missing in the trees. Mary, known for her helpfulness, followed him. Thomas wrote that he saw it from above. His mother had laid canvas on the floor. He did not yet understand what they meant by relics. He thought they would craft something that only represented holiness. But soon he learned the truth. Mary's body was treated with strange powders and dried herbs. Her skin was handled with great care. Elizabeth cut velvet fabric into small pouches. She stitched golden signs onto each one. Nathaniel claimed that true spiritual power needed real human pieces. He believed that Protestants lacked what Catholics had: sacred objects that brought blessings. He said they would fill that space. Weeks later, he traveled with boxes filled with parts. He came back with more money than ever before. During a service, he spoke with sadness about Mary's passing. He presented a wooden box made in her name. What no one knew was that inside, hidden behind the wood, rested a small part of her body. As time passed, rumors grew. Stories from distant churches spoke of healing. One place claimed that a bone had cured 3 people. The peace came from a mysterious source. Nathaniel, it seemed, had become the seller of miracles. By 1750, the business had grown further. The workshop now had 5 young workers. However, only Nathaniel and his family were allowed below the ground level. Down there, the real work took place. They built a new home as well. Stone walls and strong beams showed how successful they had become. More missing people appeared in stories: preachers, kind elderly women, wanderers. Their disappearances were explained away. Sarah Whitmore, the daughter, wrote years later in a notebook. She said her mother could feel which people held the strongest souls. Those were chosen. To the Whitmores, it was not murder. It was a higher plan. Connections with churches expanded. The family offered rare items and whispered secrets about Europe's hidden treasures. Nathaniel convinced many religious leaders that they could gain power without changing their beliefs. New tales of wonders fed the demand. Churches were told to keep the source private. People in the seats never knew. The sacred objects they kissed or prayed beside had once been neighbors, taken and reshaped. A doctor named Samuel Winters raised doubts in 1753. He had looked at one of the items and felt that it was not old. The way it was made felt strange. Before he could speak too loudly, he went missing. No trace was found. 1 month later, a finger bone appeared in a new church far away. The children of the Whitmore family played different parts. Thomas became close to his father's work. William, the youngest, showed a dark gift. His hands could preserve flesh better than anyone. He changed techniques, improved results, and took quiet pride in it. The girls managed letters and coins. The money flowed through farms, shops, and silent partners. As war neared, the family stayed careful. They showed just enough support to avoid trouble from either side. But after war came something worse. In 1782, a child named Joseph Miller vanished. He had lost both parents. He was small, calm, and often led prayers among other children. He disappeared from a church-run shelter. No one could find him. It was called a runaway case. 3 months passed. Another church gained a new item, a child's heart, preserved and pure. People began to speak of sudden recoveries, especially among the young. The number of visitors grew. Coins filled collection plates. Sarah wrote in her book with trembling hands. She said William had the idea. He said pure souls were stronger. Her mother agreed. Her father gave in. Sarah said she kept silent, though inside she screamed. Between 1782 and 1785, 16 children from poor homes were taken. Each case was brushed aside. Danger from the wild, lost travelers, or wicked strangers, these were the excuses. But inside the Whitmore cellar, small limbs and gentle faces were turned into things for worship. Child relics brought 5 times more money. Their innocence sold well. The family became richer than ever. But to keep up, they needed more help. 2 trusted workers were allowed to know the truth. One of them, Daniel Foster, would later break dot in 1785. A religious investigator named Elijah Thompson began asking questions. He had once been a lawyer. Now he followed the Quaker path. He was sent to check on strange new behaviors inside peaceful meetings. Thompson began with small steps. In Philadelphia, he traced the line of relics. Over and over, the path led back to Nathaniel Whitmore. The stories about these holy pieces sounded impressive, but none had clear records. He visited Nathaniel. The craftsman greeted him with warm smiles, talked smoothly, and showed fine items. But the papers he offered had strange mistakes. They looked fancy, but did not match real history. Thompson grew uneasy. He heard the same. People telling stories of miracles in different places. These speakers moved often, yet always had ties to the Whitmores. Something felt designed. Soon his letters were lost. Notes went missing. One night, every piece of proof vanished from his locked box. He was being watched. Then he became ill after dinner with someone he trusted. The illness nearly ended him. While recovering, Thompson met Daniel Foster. The young man had run away, haunted by what he had seen. He had kept a notebook with names, times, and drawings. Foster spoke of hooks, tools, and prayers spoken before cutting into cold bodies. He said the family moved with calm grace, as if doing something holy. Even the children's remains were handled with deep care, but with no mercy. Thompson believed him. But before action could be taken, a fire destroyed his home. The notebook burned. Foster vanished. Days later, parts of a body were pulled from a river. He had been silenced. Thompson grew wiser. He used no more paper. He whispered only to a few friends. Slowly, he built the case again. He found over 27 names. 9 churches held hidden remains. But he still lacked the solid proof. Then, help came from the most unlikely person, Sarah. Whitmore. In the cold season of 1787, snow trapped the Whitmores on their land. Tension inside the home grew. Sarah, now older and unmarried, began to break. Her writings became filled with sorrow. She spoke of nightmares. She said William was changing. His joy during the work had grown. She finally left during a trip to town. Instead of going back, she met Thompson. She spoke for 3 long hours. She gave him a map. She told him where the secret room was. She spoke of a book her mother kept, one that held every name. Sarah said she knew she would pay for speaking out, but she could no longer carry the weight. She was placed in a safe home under protection. But her family soon realized she would not return. William grew angry. Nathaniel mumbled prayers. Elizabeth made plans. Thomas wanted to run. But William refused. The family split roles. William went to find Sarah. Elizabeth gathered what she could. They used an old mine to hide things, but Thompson was already ready. A group of 6 left Philadelphia with him. The weather was terrible, but they moved forward. They reached the land by night. They followed Sarah's map. The wind screamed, at the workshop. Light still shone. They knocked. Thomas opened the door. He looked calm. He invited them in. The room smelled of wood and polish. They found a pouch behind a cabinet. Inside was a finger. Real. Preserved. Thomas sank to his knees. He whispered strange words. When asked where the others were, he said William and Elizabeth had left. Nathaniel lay sick inside the house. Thomas led them to the secret path. A table was moved. A door in the floor opened. A thick smell rose. They lit lanterns. What they saw below shook their souls. One room had benches. Tools were set neatly. Liquids in jars lined the walls. Notes set open. Pictures showed body parts. Next was the true horror. 3 bodies hung from hooks. One was a child. Then came the archive. Shelves from floor to ceiling held small wooden boxes. Each was marked. Inside were pieces, names, dates, places. In the middle stood a large book. Elizabeth's record. Every deal. Every person. Every sale. Thomas said there had been 79 grown victims. 22 were children. 43 churches had bought from them. They asked how targets were picked. He said his mother could tell. She felt which ones held power. William learned from her. They returned above. Shouts came from outside. 2 men had chased William and Elizabeth. One was wounded. His partner had been killed. The others had run into the woods. 3 days later, their bodies were found. They had taken poison. Beside them, a rough table had been made into an altar. Notes hinted at some final prayer. Thomas stood trial. He confessed to all. He was hanged in May. But the leaders now had a bigger problem. What should they do with hundreds of body parts now resting in churches? They met. They feared what panic might come. People needed faith. Truth would break it. So they decided no one would speak. Churches were told quietly. Each was given a choice. Remove the items quietly, or keep them. Some buried them. But many chose to keep the objects. Thompson was sickened. He tried to create a list with names. He wanted the victims remembered. The house was later burned. Officials claimed it was by accident. Land was sold. Sarah lived quietly in Boston. She helped children. She never married. Her final writings were filled with guilt, but also purpose. Years passed. Some say old tools were kept by medical students. Strange writings in books of that time match what William had done. In 1879, fire in a building caused old papers to be opened. Someone saw the truth. A news article followed. Leaders denied it all. The story was pulled back, but by then, the relics had become part of tradition. In 1923, workers found the full records. A secret. Space had protected them. Slowly, the true story was pieced together. In 1967, a quiet study found 11 churches still holding items. Most had forgotten. In 2005, one church found a hidden pouch. It held a note and something soft. Tests showed it was real skin. The piece was buried. A stone marked the grave. Unknown child of God. Finally at rest. The building once used for worship by the Whitmores still stands. People feel uneasy near it. Some say light appears in the shape of the old workshop. But the worst part of this tale is not the tools, nor the boxes, nor the axe. It is the idea. The things believed to be holy were built on suffering. If belief can make something sacred, what happens when the truth is cruel? If this journey through hidden history has moved you, press like, subscribe, and share with someone who seeks truths others fear. What secrets might your community be hiding? Leave your thoughts below. This memory live on not for horror, but for the justice of those forgotten.